So I'm now testing out this this is Sony FDR-AX33 camcorder yet again. I did a couple videos on the 4K mode. Now I'm actually using the standard high definition mode, and this is shooting in XAVC S HD format. That format allows for a maximum of 50 megabits per second, which is exactly what I'm filming in, and shoots at a 60 frames per second rate, which is much double, obviously, 30 frames per second, much better for panning, doing like quick pan action and stuff like that. So a lot less resolution, a lot less pixels in the overall resolution, four times less in fact, but much better for panning and a lot smaller file sizes. The file sizes for these at 50 megabits per second are about half of the 4K at 30 frames per second, at running at 100 megabits per second. So again, checking out the high definition mode, shooting at 60 frames a second and 50 megabits per second. As you can probably tell, it's a lot smoother on the motion. It's a lot better for panning. It's just not in 4K. It's actually just a 1080p mode at this point. But it's XAVC S is one of the most high-tech 1080p modes there are. One of the most highly dense, bit rates as well. As you can see, quite a bit better for panning. You can even pan slightly fast on 60 frames and maintain a good degree of clarity. So, panning fairly quickly over here. And once again, the boss mode, the balanced optical steady shot, that's set to standard. There is a more aggressive mode, active, but for 1080p, standard works just fine. For 4K, active is necessary at times. And going to use the zoom feature here in 1080p, 60 frames a second, 50 megabits per second. Its max capacity is there. That is the stop limit, and it's a 10 times optical zoom. Pretty good and clear, even in 1080p, pretty good and clear all the way up there. That's one of the benefits of a small sensor. The negatives are bad low light images, which we're going to test out next. Alright, so inside now, low light yet again. Still shooting 1080p, 60 frames a second. Just that one light there on. It's going to be darker over here, so I'll pan around. There's definitely pros and cons to both of these. I mean, and they're pretty obvious once you watch the videos back. 1080p, clearly not quite as sharp. Still looks really good. Clearly not quite as sharp though. You can't zoom as much, but the extra frame rate really does help. And you don't have to be quite so stable with the camera to make it look a pretty good solid image. Even darker over back in this direction. Apologize for the messy apartment. Alright, so now going to show, I did this in 4K, now going to show in 1080p. It's quite dark in here. As you can see, everything's just blurred out. Turning on night shot, makes it all, shoots out that infrared beam and makes everything visible, sharpens it up. Clearly the image quality is not very good in this mode, but it is still a cool feature that you can actually see things at night. It's going to be definitely, you know, dark and fuzzy and stuff, but it is still a cool feature. And then when you turn it off, here is legitimately how dark it is. Now the one thing that I also did, as you can see in the 4K video that I also did, was I got this LED light that hooks on top. Makes a huge difference. It's kind of inconvenient, but makes a gigantic difference when you're doing inside stuff. You know, books here. You know, they look quite crisp and sharp as opposed to without it, which you can't even barely see them. So this will basically be the end of this video. If there's anything else anybody wants me to test, there's any of the modes on this or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to do it. Just comment at the bottom, and hope you've enjoyed these, and if you're looking at it to make a decision, I hope this has helped you in some way.